right, welcome to a breaking news edition of Final Approach to Game Day. I am Christopher Saul. He is Colin Bester. He's that way. And we are talking about a big update from the FHSAA meeting that is taking place right now. Rural is dead-ish. Colin, you have a little bit more information?
Yeah, so because the FHSA has seen a declining number in the rural school allotment over this offseason, the board of directors for the FHSAA voted 11-1 just about 30 minutes ago to pause the rural classification cycle for the 2026 football season, as it no longer met the minimum participation requirements under the existing policy. With the existing rules, only 24 schools need to be part of a classification for it to be active for the upcoming season. This year, 16 schools remain in rural classification. Some have left to go independent. Some have left to the upstart Sunshine State Athletic Association. Which is why the FHSA did not have the numbers to keep rural going in 2026. So what they decided to do is merge Class 1A with Class Rural together for 2026. This is a football-only ruling, as other schools like in our neck of the woods, such as Baker, Laurel Hill, Paxton. What are some other
County.
Holmes County, Northview,
Northview.
Northview will stay. Yeah, they'll stay rural in other sports like basketball and baseball. But for football, those have been moved to 1A. And this is just the initial conversation. There'll be further conversations over the offseason as the football season gets closer. But right now, Class 1A and Class Rural will be merged for the upcoming football season.
So let's start with the basics. Why are all these teams dipping out of rural and going to the SSAA?
Well, that's a good question. I would say that for schools that are local, we've already seen Central High in Santa Rosa County and J and Central and Santa Rosa County move to the SSAA. They have left, joining likes of Rocky Bayou in this area. Lighthouse Christian Academy actually suspended their football season for 2026. So it's a shame to see that happen when they were in, I think, the playoffs. They actually lost to Rocky Bayou in the second round of the SSA playoffs. But I think it comes down to the board members emphasized that a growing number of rural schools are leaving the FHSA postseason. There's a competitive imbalance that has been tied to transfers and open enrollment in the state. And some rural teams felt that there was, quote, nothing to play for, end quote, without districts unless they were true state title contenders. So that explains why you see some of these schools like Central and J have left the FHSA, moved to the SSAA. So they, I guess, have something to play for. And most of the logic in this decision is that Class 1A already has a district structure, unlike rural. Rural is just a free-for-all. You have what last year was the top 16 teams in rural that went to the postseason, whereas in district play, you have your district winner and probably your district runner-up advancing to some sort of playoff system. But currently, as it stands right now, in Northwest Florida, there's no 1A schools. 1A schools are typically seen in Central and South Florida. How will this affect schools like Baker and Northview, who are really the only two rural schools in Northwest Florida? Baker, had an amazing season.
Jay,
but Jay is gone. Their SSA.
Oh, that's right. They went to the SSAA. That's right. That's
right. So Holmes County, Bluntstown, Baker, Northview, those schools are still in the FHSAA. Those will be moved to District 1A for 2026.
I mean, for now, right?
For now, but the question is the travel requirements for these teams have now gone up, because now to play in district play, you're going to be having to travel to Central or South Florida to play some of your district games.
And that's expensive. I mean, we were talking with one principal at the end of the last football season, and they told me that to get people to Jacksonville, for example, for a playoff game, that's $20,000.
Yeah, Pace had trouble.
So Pace had to raise money, like crowdfund money. Pace is a 6A school, 5A school this year, 5A school this year. They were 6A last year.
Yeah.
I think how many kids they have in that school? I mean, they have almost 2,500 kids. and
Yeah,
they're
about
having to
3,000.
crowdfund. So now you're
Yeah.
asking a school with roughly 700 kids, K through 12, to crowdfund $20,000, right? And Jay is a ritzier part of Santa Rosa County, if I do say so myself. Newer houses, more money to be had, stuff like that.
You're
And now we're
talking about
asking,
Pace, right? Not
yeah,
Jay.
Pace. No, I'm
Okay.
talking about Pace. And now
Yeah.
we're asking Baker, that has a third the number of kids in the total school, right? It's, these are K through 12, to crowdfund $20,000 to go on a regular season football game. Like,
Mhm.
that math don't math.
Yeah. And it's interesting that the SSAA is starting to gain momentum. We've seen 2 schools in Northwest Florida already leave uh, for that district, and honestly, I think the reason why they're leaving for that division is probably there's a lot less intense regulation that you see in FHSAA when it comes to sports, and the SSAA. You don't really see this intense regulation by a governing body. I mean, frankly, if you looked at Rocky Bayou season, I mean, they played the 9 games or so. They went to the playoffs. They were seeded accordingly based on record, and then you just play. There was no, oh, we have to wait for these power rankings to come out. It was their playoffs were basically set by how you did it on the field. There was a lot less red tape in order to get for Rocky Bayou to get a playoff. Might I win? They won a championship, by the way, back-to-back championships. Uh, but yeah, that's why I think schools are thinking as the Sunshine State Athletic Association is a more viable option for them. And honestly, if you look at the schools in that conference right now, there's a lot of schools that are practically in the same boat. They're all private schools. They're all they have Christian schools. Christopher, I mean Lighthouse PCA, Rocky Bayou, and now you're seeing Central and Jay move to the SSAA. I don't know if Baker is deciding to stay. I think they might stay in the FHSAA because they have the talent. I think to win playoff games there. Uh, but
I
we
mean,
just
I would argue against. I would say that they don't have the talent. And hear me out on this. This is why I say this. Do they have a talented enough football team to compete and succeed in 1A football? Totally agree, right? I think that's totally a possibility, but I don't think they have the talent and success to fund these away games, right? I
yeah
mean, you can't ask a small rural community to pay, $5,000, $10,000 for a bus to get out to wherever. It's
mhm.
just not feasible. So I think that what's going to happen is the bean counters are going to look at this and go, sorry, we can't do this, right? And the other added part of this is that the guy in charge of the FHSAA this year, the chairman, is the superintendent of schools. So I could be wrong about this. He could force them to do it, and they'll lose money hand over fist, just to like keep an elected official looking good, right? Um, but if I'm just Baker, how do you do that? I mean, it's hard
Yeah.
enough for them to get uniforms and helmets and cheerleaders and the band. Forget about the band. Band's not going.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this conversation is not only just about funding, Christopher. I think the larger conversation, the one that Bobby Johns, former coach, high school football coach at Milton, I think he's now at Weewa in Bay County. Uh, there's an issue that we've harped on the entire 2025 football season, and we can talk at hours about this, is about open enrollment and transfers. One of the dissenting vote, I forget his name, but we'll have an article later on midbaynews.com explaining this entire meeting, was that maybe we should have a rule if you have 5 transfers as a rural school, you automatically get moved up to 1A. Now, the thing about this transfers and open enrollment is it's creating lopsided schools within the rural subdivision, whereas you have like a Madison County, absolutely being recruiting superstars, or I wouldn't say recruiting superstars, but it's a hotbed for rural high
They're
school football.
recruiting 3-star recruits.
But they are continually a powerhouse in rural football. Bluntstown is now a powerhouse in rural football, and some of these schools can't compete with that. So that is probably why you see the exodus to the SSAA, because you have a much more even schedule. You have a much more balanced schedule of power on your offense than you are on your season than you would say a Baker or a Bluntstown, where some days you're playing, let's say Baker would play like Bluntstown or Madison County, then you'd play, I don't want to say scrubs, but the lesser knowns of like the
Braceville,
Port St. Joe, that type of school. You know what I mean?
a team you're
And
beaten by 50 when there's a 35-point running clock.
yeah, and the FHSA sees all of these schools, right? And they put it into their algorithm, which is not public. We will never know this FHSA algorithm unless something changes. But if you want that openness,
That's another thing, is that this is a publicly funded entity. How do they
yep.
get around that?
I don't know, but we have to contact probably our state legislature in order to do that. Good luck. I mean, we can talk about this for hours.
Yeah.
Your blood pressure's going up, ain't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get it, man. And we've talked about who the big losers are, right? Like Baker's going to lose from this. Bluntstown's going to lose from this. The power rural teams, right, are either going to be in a 1A division that's much more difficult to win in, or they're going to have a lot of travel time, right? But who are the winners out of this? Who wins from this realignment? I got one name already. I think
you go first.
I think the SSAA is obviously a huge winner in this. They get a bunch of new teams. Good for them. Like, good. But I also think that like teams like Rocky Bayou that have been in the SSAA, and like if Lighthouse had a team this year, I would say that those two teams are looking at this like going, finally, because they've been playing everybody all over Kingdom Come, right? To get their games. And they've been playing much bigger teams. But now they have teams like Central or J, right, that are right their size. And instead of playing them in some nebulous non-conference, they just kind of show up sort of thing. They're playing for keeps against these teams now, right? They're not playing somebody from the other end of the state, in a regional game. So I think this is a huge win for Rocky. I think this is a huge win for what I would consider, we have Wade down here saying take the private schools out of any of the classes and put them in their own conference. I think all of the private schools are going to start looking, side eye at this. I think the Pensacola Catholics of the world, the Rocky Bayous of the world, the Bowles schools of the world are looking at this and going, yeah, you know what? We don't have to play by all these FHSAA rules. We're private schools anyway. And now that all these other teams are coming in, there's a lot more other teams to play. Like, the Bowles school and Catholic are going to look at this and go, yeah, you know what? This is a SSAA worth winning, right?
Yeah.
Because Catholic is not winning state championships right now. Bowles is. So why wouldn't I, as the athletic director over at Catholic, go, okay, there's some like, it's J and Central teams that have been down for a while, but all of a sudden, if enough schools leave to make it worth my while, I think that the whole thing collapses. And the only thing you have left in the FHSAA is 5A, 6A teams, right, that are there, maybe 4A and 3A. But I think everybody under 3A is looking at this like, why wouldn't we do this?
Yeah. And it wasn't the thing during this meeting, it wasn't like this, we just want to get rid of rule football. There were people who wanted to keep rule football.
Sure.
And, they wanted to, because their reasoning is rule and 1A were the same, relatively the same size. But we want to keep, the small schools happy because, the big change for 1A is you have teams like Madison County and Baker now knocking on your door. And for the 1A schools, I mean, there are some powerhouses in 1A, don't get me wrong. And most of those powerhouses are private schools, especially in South Florida that you see. I think Miami Northwestern is in there. Charmaine Madonna is also in a lower class.
Northwestern's a 3A school.
Sorry, my bad.
Chaminade, Bowles School.
But I mean, if you're a Baker and you see like these private schools that are really, really good, and you're just, I mean, Baker's working with the school population of Okaloosa County. That's all they can do. Do you see Matt Brunson thinking, oh, it's now harder for me to win a state title? I mean, it was easier for him to rule because all you had was your bracket. But now you have schools from Central and South Florida entering the mix. And I
Well,
guess it's going to be way harder for Baker to make it out of the first round if they make it next year than it would be in previous years.
so yeah, I would agree with that. And this is my third winner, right? Is bigger schools next to smaller schools. And what I mean by that is the Crestviews of the world, right? That have been 5-5, 4-6, 6-4, right? All of a sudden, all these kids in Baker that, if the football program were to collapse because they can't, drive 400 miles every week, right? All these kids at Baker that are, very strong athletes are going to be moving to Crestview. And now everybody's saying, well, Baker can't compete with Crestview, and, these skill players are, not going to be the same as they were in rural, in 5A. It's a different animal, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, maybe. But let's say that the average starter at Baker is a second stringer at Crestview, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, your bench is super deep at Crestview, right? And in the fourth quarter, you start winning games that you lost because you have decent second stringers that can come in on the offensive line, decent slot receivers, decent, second halfbacks that are ready to play ball. And so I think like the Crestviews of the world, I'm trying to think of another strong example, like the Bay counties, right, that have like Bozeman up there, or Blintstown. What's close to Blintstown besides nothing?
Maybe in that area of Mariana, Chipley.
And those are, so those guys all come south, right, and go play at Bay.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Bay's even better than they were last year.
Yeah. And I think what really struck out to me by this decision is that, and Bobby John said this, and multiple other members said this, is that football really drove this decision, not other sports. Basketball, baseball were fine, but football, with open enrollment, with transfers, not limiting transfers, this has become an issue that schools are having to deal with. And this is not just a rule problem. This is a problem that we've seen across the board where you're having, the rumor is that a guy from IMG Academy is transferring to Choctaw to play quarterback. And I don't know. I know he's from here. I know he's from this area, but this is now becoming an issue. And originally, open enrollment and transfers were done for education. That was education first. Look at all the, like Baker has a big agricultural, Crestview has, automotive and, nursing. And, he's down here in the south end of Okaloosa County, you see a lot of data driven CTE advancements in Fort Walton Beach, Choctaw, and Niceville High School. I think the education thing is moot at this point because team players are saying, "Oh, I could either go to Niceville or Choctaw and advance my football career, or I could go to, Pensacola Catholic and win titles, or be in the contention to win titles year after year after year." It's an issue that I feel like no one is really trying to solve at this moment, and once schools started leaving for Sunshine State Athletic Association, this collapse became a self-reinforcing issue. If you want to point the finger and blame for this issue, you have to look at the FHSAA. It's not the schools. The schools are in the box that the FHSAA created, and they have to play in that box.
So radix omnium malorum est cupidus.
Look, I'm not educated. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you. Which in Latin means money is the root of all evil. And Book of Timothy's not wrong. And I think it applies to this situation just as much as it does to our personal lives and all that other stuff. I'm trying not to get too biblical on everybody out here. But when you introduce money into the system, unexpected negative outcomes occur. And
yeah, who'd have thought?
Who'd have thunk, right? Everybody, my dad, right? Stephen Saul, if he's watching this, this is not a hateful thing, but my dad, every time we talk about college football, is like, we need to stop the pay and the NIL stuff, all this stuff. It's wrong. It's bad. And my counter argument is to him is, look, when we put this stuff on TV, when there was money to be made, right? It became a commodity. And right now, there are people in this state that are trying to turn high school football into a commodity. And when that happens, stuff like the transfer rules get used to transfer kids and have these super teams, right? And that's not the player's fault. That's not the coach's fault. That's an administrative issue, right? That can be changed. at the state level in the state legislature. But we have decided as a state, rightly or wrongly, that this is how we want to run academics, right? And some schools, right, are football teams with portable buildings attached, you know, that are football teams with school buildings attached, and it's not the other way around. And until we change how we see it mentally in society, we're going to keep getting stuff like this. And I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying it is what it is. And we're going to keep seeing changes like this happen.
Yeah. And it was interesting. The next meeting topic on their agenda was for independent schools to keep their independent status.
Yeah.
I have not done that. I called you as soon as rule died, essentially in its not died, but what would you say? It's in its labored breathing death throes sort of stage.
It's expending its death rattle.
Yes. But there'll be a massive article later on Midday News discussing everything with much more detail. This was sort of the quick reactionary video that we wanted to get the news out and let everyone know what changes that the FHSAA board is doing right now. And I'm interested to see, because this isn't the first domino to fall. This is going to be a longer discussion throughout the off season. And I think the issue is that many teams in this area have already had their schedules set for 2026. And some of them have contracts with teams, and money has been involved, or money has been spent rather. How does this affect schools like Baker, who may have already had their schedule set, ready to go for 2026? Now they're moving to Class 1A, where they have to put district games in their schedule. How does this affect Northview? How does this? We don't know yet.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's a very interesting thing
the
that's
Cliff
happening.
Notes is sorry, local rural Alabama football team, you're off. Find somebody else.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if Frank Beasley has. I mean, Frank Beasley's having trouble finding his 11th game right now, or 10th game. So and he was doing this. He was rattling the drum early December, early January to get his schedule filled. If you're Matt Brunson or you're coach at Northview right now, it's now end of July, end of January, early February, and you may have to change your schedule. You may be only playing 8 or 9 games this year. Like that's crazy. I'm shocked. I'm really shocked. I really don't know what to say other than I'm kind of in shock that it happened now. Like the writing was on the wall for quite a little bit, and this action wasn't taken beforehand.
Leadership matters. All right, guys. We are gonna leave it here. Comments, bottom. We'll see you soon. Article's coming out. Colin's taking it.